It wasn't just another filming day at Mugello, it was a day that might quietly redefine Ferrari's entire 2025 campaign. Behind the closed gates of the Tuscan circuit, the SF-25 was circling not for promotional footage, but for answers, with Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc sharing driving duties in what could become the most significant private test of Ferrari's season. At stake was more than just a few tenths per lap. Ferrari's engineers were hunting for a solution to a problem that has haunted the Scuderia since pre-season testing. Chronic instability at the rear, unpredictable ride height behaviour, and a car that punished its drivers through every high-speed corner. But here's where it gets fascinating. This wasn't some routine shakedown. The rear suspension fitted to the SF-25 that Thursday was fundamentally different. A rethinking of geometry and compliance that promised not just incremental gains, but a potential unlock of entirely new setup windows for both Hamilton and Leclerc. And while the public headlines painted Ferrari's mood as cautiously optimistic, insiders suggest something far more pivotal: that this suspension concept could resolve the very limitations that have prevented Ferrari from translating one-lap pace into consistent race-winning performance. So as the championship heads to Spa-Francorchamps and beyond, the question is no longer whether Ferrari has pace, but whether this upgrade can finally give Hamilton and Leclerc a platform to fight McLaren on equal terms, both this season and beyond. At the heart of Ferrari's struggles this season has been a frustratingly narrow operating window, particularly at the rear of the SF-25, where inconsistent behaviour over bumps and curbs has robbed the car of both stability and driver confidence. The data gathered at Mugello last week reveals exactly how Ferrari's engineers intend to change that narrative. Central to the new rear suspension package is a revised geometry designed to reduce ride height variability under dynamic loads. The previous configuration suffered from excessive vertical compliance, essentially allowing too much vertical movement in high-speed corners, which not only unsettled the rear end, but also complicated aero consistency through transient phases. This new system reportedly stiffens the rear, but introduces a subtle retuning of anti-lift characteristics, aiming to maintain downforce levels, even as the car transitions between braking, corner entry, and throttle application. Ferrari's simulations suggested significant gains on paper, but what mattered was how it performed in the hands of the drivers themselves. During Thursday's private running, both Hamilton and Leclerc reportedly reported a car that felt far more anchored in high-speed sections, a critical improvement given the relentless cornering demands at venues like Spa and Silverstone. But there's another layer. This suspension change isn't an isolated fix. By solving ride height variability, Ferrari can unlock a broader set of aerodynamic setups, giving their engineers far greater flexibility in fine-tuning downforce distribution front to rear without destabilizing the car's balance. That's key, because Ferrari's 2025 season has often been defined by compromises, sacrificing ultimate downforce for predictability or trimming drag at the expense of tyre life. If this suspension truly delivers what initial feedback suggests, it could allow Ferrari to finally exploit the SF-25's theoretical potential over a full Grand Prix distance, not just in qualifying trim. While the technical data may look promising, the human element behind this breakthrough tells an equally compelling story, one of pressure, politics, and pride inside Ferrari's walls. For Lewis Hamilton, this private Mugello test represented far more than an engineering exercise. It was a critical moment to assert himself as Ferrari's most valuable asset, a 7-time world champion whose feedback carries weight beyond lap times. Hamilton's transition to Ferrari hasn't been seamless. Whispers in the paddock suggest that even inside Maranello, there has been quiet skepticism about whether his input could truly recalibrate a team so steeped in its own design philosophies. And yet, here he was, taking the wheel of a radically re-engineered SF-25, pushing it to the limits around Mugello's fast, flowing corners, and reportedly delivering feedback that validated Ferrari's direction. The engineers took note. Hamilton's description of the car's newfound rear stability echoed precisely what the data was showing, lending immediate credibility to the upgrade path. For Charles Leclerc, the stakes were even more personal. While he remains Ferrari's golden child, this test session was a reminder that he now shares the spotlight and influence with a driver whose experience at Mercedes' championship-winning machine gives him unique insight into what a truly elite car feels like underneath him. Leclerc's own comments during the test, reportedly more guarded but no less revealing, confirmed that Ferrari's long-standing steering assistance issues, something he admitted privately to Oscar Piastri months ago, might finally be addressed. In that cockpit, last Thursday, Hamilton and Leclerc were not just drivers. They were Ferrari's last hope of turning this season around. And their ability to extract trust, confidence, and outright performance from this new package may determine not just results at Spa, but the future balance of power inside the Scuderia itself. Even with Ferrari sitting second in the constructors' standings, the reality beneath that statistic is stark. McLaren holds a commanding 238-point lead, a gulf that underlines just how far Ferrari must climb to become a genuine title contender again. For Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, the personal stakes mirror the team's predicament. Leclerc may sit fifth in the drivers' standings, 16 points ahead of Hamilton, but both drivers are effectively competing for the same prize now. Momentum heading into 2026, when the regulations reset and Ferrari's long-term project truly begins. The mathematics of the 2025 title fight leave little room for fantasy. McLaren's consistency, strategic excellence, and aerodynamic advantage mean Ferrari's path back to the top is not about catching up this year, but positioning themselves as the biggest threat next year. But this is where the rear suspension breakthrough could become decisive. If this upgrade delivers immediate gains at Spa and continues to pay dividends across the remaining rounds, Ferrari could shift the balance of power at key circuits, particularly at tracks where mechanical grip and stability matter most, like Zandvoort and Suzuka. A string of strong results would not only narrow the constructors' gap, but critically set a psychological precedent. In the final races of a losing campaign, that kind of momentum becomes invaluable, shaping off-season development priorities, bolstering team morale, and sending a clear signal to McLaren that Ferrari's resurgence is already underway. Every point matters, not just for 2025, but for the fight that is coming in 2026. In many ways, Ferrari's search for rear stability echoes some of the Scuderia's most pivotal turning points throughout its history. This isn't the first time Maranello has faced a technical deficit mid-season and sought salvation through suspension architecture. Rewind to 2017. Then, too, Ferrari battled rear-end unpredictability in a title fight with Mercedes, a battle that ultimately exposed the limits of their development cycle and aerodynamic correlation. Even further back, the Schumacher-era Ferraris under Rory Byrne's design leadership were legendary for their balance. Much of it derived from precisely engineered rear suspension geometries that allowed Michael Schumacher to exploit every ounce of mechanical grip while preserving tyre life over long stints. Ferrari's challenge today is to rediscover that blend, a car that is not only fast in a single lap, but predictable and consistent across an entire race distance. And the parallels run deeper still. The 2000 season, where Ferrari's fortunes turned decisively, was underpinned by an iterative approach to solving exactly these types of mechanical challenges, with upgrades introduced between mid-season races becoming critical to ending their 21-year title drought. In that context, this rear suspension test at Mugello feels almost symbolic. A quiet reset for a team desperate to reclaim its place at the top, informed by lessons of past failures and past triumphs alike. Hamilton's presence at Ferrari also invokes echoes of other great driver-led resurgences. Think Alain Prost's arrival in 1990, or Fernando Alonso's near-title run in 2010, where a world champion's feedback shaped the technical philosophy of the car itself. If this suspension upgrade indeed marks a turning point, it won't just be another technical milestone. It will sit in Ferrari's long history as one of those quiet but defining moments that separates eras. What happens next for Ferrari hinges entirely on how this suspension breakthrough translates when the stakes rise again at Spa-Francorchamps. The Belgian Grand Prix isn't just another round on the calendar. Its fast-flowing corners, extreme elevation changes, and mixed weather conditions make it an unforgiving test of chassis balance and aerodynamic consistency. The exact areas where Ferrari has struggled most this season. If the SF-25's revised rear suspension delivers a genuine performance step forward, Spa could serve as Ferrari's proof-of-concept moment, validating a new design philosophy and unlocking setup options that the team had previously written off as unworkable. But there's a broader strategic horizon at play too. Success at Spa would allow Ferrari to apply this rear-end philosophy aggressively for the second half of the season, effectively turning each remaining race into a live development laboratory, not just to close the gap to McLaren in 2025, but to lay critical foundations for the 2026 car. And with reports suggesting a complementary power steering upgrade on the way for Hungary, Ferrari may be positioning itself for a late-season resurgence built on mechanical refinement rather than pure aerodynamic overhaul. For Hamilton and Leclerc, this represents an opportunity to influence the direction of development directly. Their feedback now carries heightened importance as Ferrari seeks to build a car around both drivers' needs. Spa won't crown Ferrari champions this year, But if this suspension upgrade works as intended, it could mark the first step in their path back to serious title contention. Beyond the immediate fight for podiums, the significance of Ferrari's suspension breakthrough could ripple far deeper into their long-term trajectory. The challenges exposed this season, chronic rear instability, narrow setup windows, and inconsistent driver confidence have revealed structural weaknesses in Ferrari's design process itself. If this rear suspension solution proves effective, it won't just rescue a difficult 2025 campaign, it could become the foundation of Ferrari's entire chassis philosophy heading into 2026 and the next regulatory era. That matters profoundly because the 2026 reset isn't just about power units. It will reward teams that can deliver cars with predictable handling and flexible setup potential, especially under the constraints of tighter aerodynamic regulations and evolving tyre specifications. For Hamilton, this represents a chance to embed his legacy inside Ferrari's DNA, contributing not just as a driver, but as a de facto technical architect, shaping how the team builds its cars for years to come. For Leclerc, it's a chance to reassert himself as Ferrari's long-term leader, after being somewhat overshadowed by Hamilton's arrival and experience. And for the team itself, this could mark a cultural inflection point. A move away from patchwork fixes toward integrated engineering solutions that reflect lessons learned the hard way in 2025. If Ferrari gets this right, Spa may ultimately be remembered not just as a race weekend, but as the beginning of a new chapter. The moment when Maranello finally laid the groundwork for a car capable of competing for world championships consistently again.